Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to our collaborative webinar with Oracle. So my name is Daniel Smith from Steltix, Managing Director for Steltix in the Asia Pacific region and product owner for the Oracle Guided Learning for JD Edwards solution you're going to see showcased today. The webinar is all about how we empower JD users through enabling the digital adoption with the solution Oracle Guided Learning. So I'm joined today by Jason Matthias from Oracle University, and he'll introduce himself shortly. But Jason and I have been working together for the last 12 months to enable this initiative and bring it to life, so to speak. And again, my name's Daniel Smith, Managing Director for Steltix here in Asia Pacific. So, what we're really...
Sorry. So no, thanks, Dan, for asking me along today.
Thanks, Jason. So in terms of the outcomes that we're looking to achieve out of today, we're really looking to showcase how OGL or Oracle Guided Learning enables a comprehensive learning and onboarding experience for JDE users, and we'll see plenty of that in the demonstrations today. How it facilitates process adoption, process completion for employees, as well as other parts of your supply chain. We'll showcase, again, through demonstration, a number of the unique features, and we'll talk about some of the services that Steltix offer in relation to enabling Oracle Guided Learning for your organisation and some of our capabilities from a migration perspective. So I'll now hand over to Jason, and Jason, you can introduce yourself and we'll go from there.
Thanks, Daniel. So yeah, Jason Matthias is my name. I've been working at Oracle now for roughly 7 years, but in IT education for 22 years. Makes me feel really old when I say that, but you know, it's remarkable how much things have changed in that time. And you know, that's what's really exciting about today, because this is really about the future of learning, which is here now. In terms of my role and what I do, Oracle University is a division of Oracle, and our mission really is all about making sure that, you know, our customers, the people using our software, our technology, know how to get the best out of it, right? So it's really all about focusing on obtaining, you know, optimal adoption of your applications, making sure that you're happy using them, and also so that we can actually provide skills to the workforce out there so that they actually are Oracle advocates and can continue to use and grow with it, tools as well. And so, you know, those sort of four points down there, you know, it's about accelerating adoption, empowering users, driving efficiencies, and really being innovative. So with that in mind, Dan, if you just flip to the next slide, you know, over the time I've been here at Oracle, things have really changed. You know, when I rejoined Oracle about 7 years back, we were a classroom-based training organisation. We had instructors, we had classrooms. You'd schedule a class, you'd go and sit in the classroom for 5, maybe 10 days even, and learn about whatever technology it was. We have completely transformed that now to the point where 85% of what we do across the entire Oracle portfolio of products and technologies is digital in nature. And if you really think about the way people want to learn today, any of you on this webinar, when you want to know something, what do? You pick up your phone and you Google and you find a quick video or a quick article. If you're on your laptop, you do the same sort of thing. And it's all about, I want to learn something right now, right here. Right? So really, why should that learning experience be any different when you're using JD Edwards or when you're using whatever system it is? And so with that in mind, you know, the two key solutions we have are the ones on the screen here. At the top is Oracle Guided Learning, which we're going to talk about primarily today. We started this about 6 years ago, and it's all about when you're using the system, if you need help, you get it right then and there. Almost like, you know, the same thing with like a satellite navigation system in your car, if you like, shows you how to get from point A to point B. On the other side, we have what we call Oracle MyLearn. This is, I guess, the evolution of what used to be the classroom training. Right? We actually closed our classrooms 4 years ago. And so we still write all the courses for all of our products and everything, but we record them and we actually, you know, bundle them up into what we call learning subscriptions, and they're made available via our MyLearn platform. It's not just recorded videos though, it's literally you get real environments to log in, do exercises. You still get the books, if you like, the digital versions of all the student guides. new content's constantly added. We kind of refer to it as being like the Netflix of learning, if you like. We're not going to talk about that today, but I guess I mention this because learning has changed, right? It really has flipped on its head from where it used to be only 4 or 5 years ago, and it's a real trend in the industry. You know, that the pandemic actually drove this type of learning even more so because people just couldn't get together and learn. So, you know, the adoption across our customer base of these sort of solutions has really grown as a result of that, to the point where down the bottom there you can see that, you know, on any given day there's over 3 million active users around the world of these two solutions. It's an incredible amount of people. We've got over 3,000 customers using them, and yeah, we also provide certification programs as well, and we've got, you know, again, over 2 million certified people around the world. So just onto the next bit, you know, these two solutions fit right across the spectrum of where you are in terms of your life cycle with Oracle products, and on any Oracle products as well. You know, within OU, Oracle University, our primary focus is really on the cloud suite of products, because that's where Oracle's driving us. But Daniel and the Steltix team saw a massive opportunity to take what we were doing with guided learning and, you know, put it into the JD Edwards arena. So I've got to give them credit. They have driven this to become a reality today. You know, they were so determined with the Oracle product management team, and, you know, it's taken nearly a year, but it's amazing that we're here today being able to talk about this as a real thing that's going to market. And look, I won't dwell on the slide, but you can see that this is really just talking about, we have Oracle guided learning right across the portfolio. We have the MyLearn solution right across the Oracle portfolio as well, and certification right across the portfolio as well. So it's a really diverse offering. And I think that's just one more slide. So, you know, just before I hand over to Dan to talk about specifically what Steltix are doing, you know, you can see here a screenshot. It's a busy screen, I know, but just to give you just the one-page view of what is guided learning, imagine you're actually in JD Edwards and you want to know how to do something, just like I talked about before with you grab the phone and you search for some information. There's a little button you click, we call the guided learning widget, and it will open up this panel here with everything that you can do on that screen in your role, right? So all of this content is what is called guides, and it literally will show you around the application and how to do what it is that you're after. There's different types of content that can be provided out there. I won't steal Dan's thunder from that, but I guess the real key points here is that it's what we call learning in the flow of work. When you need it, where you need it. You don't waste time going searching for it. You're productive straight away. It's easy to configure and change the content to adapt to your business, to your processes. Right? There's a really simple to use Oracle Guided Learning console in the back end for the developers, where you manage the content. What we're looking at here is what's deployed to the end users. It's all fully integrated, right? There's nothing to be installed on the users' PCs for them to run guided learning. And, you know, you can deliver messages in real time to them. You can target SRs. And I guess the last point there, it is licensed very differently to your JD Edwards applications. You know, Oracle Guided Learning is actually a cloud service, right? So it's licensed on a subscription basis, just like other SaaS products. It's based on the number of users or your employee base. The actual license is with Oracle, but we are doing this through the partners, right? So Steltix are our, you know, number one preferred partner for this for JD Edwards globally. They're the ones who've driven it. So, you know, we're happy for them to be leading all of these opportunities with you as the customers to bring guided learning to yourselves. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Daniel to take it from here.
Thanks, Jason. And I skipped over some housekeeping there, but in the Teams platform, we have enabled the Q&A feature. We've got some time at the end of the session to address that. So if you do have a question, please pop it into that. So we very much wanted today to be heavily geared around demonstrating the solution because I think that showcases it in its best possible light as opposed to a lot of PowerPoint. So we're going to jump into a demo very shortly. And just to support what Jason has outlined in relation to Oracle University, so Steltix, in collaboration with Oracle, have worked to enable the Oracle Guided Learning for JD Edwards. So it's embedded in JD, which you'll see shortly. It inherits all of the role security. It's tightly integrated. It's contextually aware, so it knows where you are in the application, whether you're in procurement, it'll show you the procurement guides, etc. And there's a heap of features which again are best showcased through a demonstration, but this solution allows you to communicate to your user community. It allows you to prompt them for new features that have been activated, as well as providing step-by-step training material. And the thing that I'm most excited about, and I'll show you today, is the insights that you get. So what training material is being consumed, what quality is that training material, where are your gaps, what are your users doing within your training environment. So we'll show all that, as well as the content editor throughout the course of today. So I'm going to do three demonstrations. The first is around the end user experience, so what it looks like for an end user who's running JDE, and we've seen a screenshot of that with Jason, but I'll show you that in a real life environment. We're then going to look at the business insights, so the analytics that the solution gives you the ability to consume. So this is all around what is your user community running by way of training guides, what's the quality of those training guides, how often are they being run, etc. I'll show you that, and I'll show you the content creation and management capability of the solution as well. So that's the full life cycle, if you will, of the end user experience, the business insights, and the content creation and management. So the first thing we'll jump into is the end user experience. So I'm going to jump into a JDE environment and show OGL in action. And the kind of things we're going to cover off is pop-up messages, beacons, smart tips, a number of other features around policy, communication, how to embed videos, the ability to poll your user community through surveys, the training guides themselves, submitting feedback, the orchestrator and how OGL supports the orchestrator, and the multilingual capability of the application. So I'm just going to jump into JDE. I'll just stop via Teams to turn my camera off just to support the better consumption of the bandwidth. So hopefully you can all see a JDE screen in front of you. I purposely haven't signed into the application because I want to show you what the user experience is like when OGL is activated. So I'm going to sign in, and you'll notice a couple of things that are different through the sign-in process. So just bear with me a second as that loads the JDE application. In this environment, we've activated Oracle Guided Learning, and the first thing you'll see is what we refer to as a pop-up message. So this is a communication of sorts to your user community. In this instance, we're using it to say, well, release 23, we just performed a tools upgrade, a JDE was upgrade. It is now live in your environment. And here's some of the features and a URL to find additional information about that particular release. But these messages are not just limited to upgrades or updates. These can be used for things like communicating month-end activities, potentially system outages. They can be time-based and controlled such that they are there for people logging onto the system on a Monday morning, for argument's sake, and it pops up for a period of a couple of hours. That's the first thing you'll notice. The second thing you'll probably notice is the widget itself over here on the right-hand side, so completely embedded within the JDE application. I'll get to that in a second. But the other feature I wanted to show you is up the top here with our watch lists, we've got a beacon which has been activated. Now, in the context of continuous delivery and pushing out features in JDE, one of the really challenging things is how do you communicate that to end users to say that this feature has been activated. So this beacon has drawn my attention to this particular feature, which is a notification. That watch list has been enabled in production, and it's communicating to the end users that that feature has been activated. I'll just hit the reminder later for that particular feature. Now I'll open the widget itself. So this is the Oracle Guided Learning widget. And again, it's completely embedded within the JDE application. And there are a number of features that I'll run through, but I'll start with probably the most obvious, which is the consumption of a training guide. One of the really nice features about the OGL tool itself is its search capability and just general ease of use. So the use case I'm going to execute here is I'm a new user, potentially as part of the organization that's running JDE. I've been told to create a purchase order No one's shown me how to do that necessarily within the application, but I do have OGL to help me out. So I've got a heap of process guides here, and this particular example, I'm showing them all, but typically that'd be contextual to your role or the applications that you're in. But I can use the search feature just to show me what the training material is for purchase orders. So I'm going to search for purchase. I've got some training material here, which is to create a purchase order for a stock purchase order. Okay, and I've named it demo for this particular demo. So the first thing I'm going to launch is the step guide. So this is the feature over here, which launches a step-by-step guide with a video on how to enter, in this instance, a stock-based purchase order. So there's a video that I can see there. I can maximize that as well. I won't do that just now, but here is the step-by-step guide showing me through how to execute that particular transaction. That guide can be printed, it can be emailed if you're in a support desk type capacity, and you can see it without the actual images as well. So that's feature number one. I'll just quickly maximize that video just so you can see that in operation. And that video will play, and the user will be able to consume that at their own leisure on a multitude of different device formats. So I'll just pause that now. That was feature number one. I just looked at the step guide for the create purchase order. Now, the next step is it can actually guide me through executing a transaction. So we've just seen a step guide, which I can consume a video, a PDF, or follow the steps themselves. The next component I'm going to look at is actually how do I do that in the system. So I'm going to click on this particular process, and it's going to ask me to navigate to the particular E1 page, which I've already got selected. Next, it's going to ask me to enter a stock purchase order or enter the stock purchase order button. And then it's going to step me through the process of creating a stock purchase order. Now, at this point, I should add that the text that we've pre-populated here is part of an implementation process and can be contextual or tailored to your specific environment. What you're seeing here is a demo type scenario, but here is where you would say, here's the context of my organization around our suppliers, our business units, our ship to locations. But I'm just going to follow the hints so we can see this process and transaction through. And it's stepping me through what fields to complete. And it can also tell you why you're completing a specific field. So the branch plant location, that's the header. Now it asks me down to the detail. Now I won't go through this transaction end to end, but I think you'll get the idea. But in the interest of time, I'll just enter the item number. And then I could obviously step through that into the quantity and continue the training material. I will, however, at this point, just pause the training material or exit out of it, just in the interest of time. That is a feature you can enable or disable. But what that triggers is some feedback on that particular guide, which is another great feature of the platform. So as a user, I can provide real-time feedback as to how useful that guide was, along with some text. So I could add here, very useful. However, some additional business context could be helpful. And I could submit that, okay? And what we'll see in the actual platform, we are to review and manage at a guide by guide level. I'll just skip that for now. So that's the first couple of features of the application. On the left-hand side here, we've got a number of other capabilities, which I'll just talk to and show a few of them. So the ability to survey your user community. So think of this in the context of what training material do you need? What is your experience with JDE? Be able to capture feedback within the application. So I'm just going to launch this survey, and you can force this to prompt to users as well. But I'm just going to launch it manually. The first question is Oracle Guided Learning helping you with the job, on-the-job training? And obviously the answer to that is definitely not no. So you've got a choice of yes. How would you rate it? Again, we're just showing you some of the features of a particular survey, and then you can add some feedback to the actual solution as well. So The ability to be able to survey user community either in a project context, in a BAU context, in a trainee context is very powerful, and we haven't really had that. We haven't had that feature available within JDE previously. That's the surveys. In terms of putting together onboarding tasks or linking training content together, we have this capability to group together training material. So in this particular example, I'm learning about procurement, and there might be multiple steps within that particular task that I need to execute. So I've just created a purchase order, I've completed that task, but then this next step in the process may be to receive a purchase order. So we can link together training material into a task, and we can make that available for users to complete before they go on to the next set of tasks. So great for onboarding in relation to orientation, etc. We have the ability to link to videos. So in this example, this could be external videos, internal videos hosted within your environment. In this example, this launches a video around managing orchestrators within JDE. So the ability to have some of that content presented to your end users in a video format and be able to run it directly from Oracle Guided Learning is there. I won't run that video, but I think you get the idea. The next feature I'll show you, and again, one of the more powerful capabilities is the ability to consolidate a lot of company policies. So when you're talking about a procurement process or a delegated financial authority process, the ability to have your procurement policy, or in this instance, your travel and expense policy, visible within the application and presented to the user if they need it when entering a purchase order or an expense claim. You have the ability to centralize all of that into a location within Oracle Guided Learning. One of the really nice features is Oracle Guided Learning also works across the orchestrator. So if you're looking at how to roll out the JDE orchestrator and provide training as part of that, I'll just briefly show you what that might look like. So we've got a training topic here around running an orchestrator. Again, this is a step guide to the video. Then we've got the actual steps that can be executed to run an orchestration in your environment. I know that's a feature that a lot of organizations are looking for. Once they develop an orchestration, it's how to run it and how to manage it. The last one is all of the step guides are available in a PDF format as well. So we acknowledge that not everyone wants to consume a video or an online training material. They may want to download and access a PDF document. Again, I won't launch that, but that opens up the purchase order PDF training material, which someone can download, print if they needed to. So that's the first demonstration. What I didn't show you there was the multilingual, so just we'll cover that off next. We covered off the orchestrator, so OGL works across the orchestration as well as JDE, Orchestrator Studio. Some screenshots there, and obviously one of the questions that comes up is around the multilingual capability of well, not just JDE, but Oracle Guided Learning. And we have the ability to have over 30 languages within Oracle Guided Learning, and the ability to convert from English to other languages. And I've got some screenshots here of what that might look like if you're running Dutch language within Oracle Guided Learning. Okay, so that's part of the functionality, because we know many of our users are not just English centric, they want to push it out to multiple countries across multiple regions. And here's a list of the languages that are supported out of the box from an Oracle Guided Learning perspective, which covers most of our bases geographically. Okay, so that was the first use case. The second use case, and probably the one I'm most passionate about, is within the actual Oracle Guided Learning platform itself, so not within JDE, the insights that you're able to get across the user community, how the training material is being consumed, and the quality of the training material. So I'm now going to log into the Oracle Guided Learning console. So being a cloud-based application, you can sign on to Oracle Guided Learning, and this is connected to the JDE environment that I was just using. And within here, we're going to focus on the analytics and reports first, and then we're going to look at the content. So within this environment, I'm going to look at a number of the reports that come out of the box. But what this is showing me and I need to preface this with this is a demo environment and not representative of a production environment with thousands of users of it. This is a timeline of the usage of our OGL environment, and we launched it last week in Dallas. You can see there was a massive spike of people using our demo environment with that announcement. So that just explains that. But what we can see from this particular dashboard is all the different process guides, training material, what is being run the most in terms of the guides themselves, and the feedback. So what feedback are we getting from our end users? In this particular window, I've looked at the last month, but we can look over a span of a year, a day, a week, or a custom sort of time zone itself. One of the features I like if you're in the learning development team and managing KPIs is the ability to export this information out directly into PowerPoint, which I'll just show you, and use this as a standard reporting feature that you might have from a KPI perspective in terms of what the active users are doing, what guides are being used, what is the feedback, the quality, the runs, and the run types, etc. So it's a standard report that comes out of the box. The next thing I'll look at is the actual reporting around the feedback. So here we showed before the ability to score and assess or provide some feedback on the training material. And this is a dashboard which basically summarizes that. And up the top, you can see our average feedback for our training material is 4.5 stars. And obviously over time, you want to increase that. We can focus our attention very quickly on this particular one, which has only got 2 stars. So I can click on this particular summary. I jump directly to the actual guide itself, the feedback, which isn't super informative, but this is the feedback that the user's given to us. And I can actually jump to that particular guide itself and look at some of the statistics and information around what users have been running it, the time spent, the feedback. You can see this information here. Someone's rated a 2, someone's rated a 4. How much do they progress through the particular process guide itself? Did they complete it? Did they not complete it? And this is at an aggregate level, by way of example. So you get quite a lot of insights in terms of the feedback on a particular training guide, but how it's being used by a user community. One of the features I didn't show when we're doing the JDE demo, and I'll just jump back to JDE very quickly, but we have the ability to specify what's known as a hotspot. So I've set up a hotspot on this particular feature within JDE, which is the search. And a hotspot allows you to assess and manage how many times is someone clicking on a particular button or capability with that in JDE. You might be interested in polling how much a particular function is being used, and you have very little insights in that in a standard JDE environment. So what I've done is I've set up a hotspot on the search, and within the back end, I can look at how many times a particular feature, so for example, the search hotspot has been used 53 times over this particular window of time. So it gives you the ability to see who's using what particular capability with the application. In this example here, I've got a hotspot on the add purchase order button that's been used 42 times. So it gives you the ability to quantify how the features of the application are being used. Next feature I'll show you is the search terms. So you saw me enter purchase when I was looking at my process guides. I didn't know where the training material was, but the system captures all of the search terms that are entered into the application, and it gives you some good feedback to perhaps enhance your training material. So what we're seeing here is the items that were searched the most. So someone's been searching for P4101Z1. This is the ones with the results. So these are the ones that have actually had a training material or a process guide returned to them based on that search. And these are the ones we probably need to focus on. So people are searching for UDC and they're not getting any results. They're searching for sales and not getting results when it comes to training material. So that tells me as a training administrator, then perhaps we need to have some training material on sales or on budgets or on UDCs because people are obviously searching for it. So being able to get that feedback is definitely something you cannot do in a standard JDE context. So the surveys feature we spoke about. So this is the ability to assess and understand the specific surveys that we have put out there. So I can click into that. We can look at the feedback what people are responding with, what the rate is, etc., and when are they submitting the surveys. So the ability to survey users and have that feedback is, again, a new capability. And the final analytics, and I'll preface this by saying that this is not mandatory on or off. We do know that monitoring the use of training material for your users in some parts of the world is not something you want to activate for various reasons. We do have the ability to see what users are running what training content and what are the active users versus the non-active users. So our user names here aren't reflective of what would be in your environment, but our demo user has run this application 2,300 times, and we can drill into what guides they're running, any feedback that they've given us, and when are they running this. Now, the demo user is tied to our demo.steltix environment, so that's been used a lot over the course of the last week when we released the application within the demo.steltix platform. Okay, so I'm going to jump back to the slides where I covered off the analytics, I covered off the hotspots, I've covered off the content feedback, and now I'm going to cover off the content creation and management in short fashion. So I'm going to jump back to the Oracle Guided Learning Platform. I'm going to look at review and filtering content, editing content, and some of the key features around version control and multilingual. So I'm going to go back to the Oracle Guided Learning application itself. I'm going to go to the content area, and by content, this is all of the training material or tasks that have been developed and made available in your particular environment. There's a number of things we can do here. We have a list view here. I can filter by product. So Oracle Guided Learning works across a multitude of different products, whether it's the cloud applications, JDE, or non-Oracle applications. And we'll talk about that a bit later with the licensing. We can filter by module, so it's aware of your JDE module. So you can look at training material by module, and then you can look at training material by type. But I'm going to look up the training material topic that I ran before, which was the demo create purchase stock item. And this is the topic itself. And from here, I can do a number of things, and we'll show a few of those features. The solution has full version control. So this training material, and important from an audit perspective, has quite a rich version history. It's the one that we use for demos. So you can see we're up to version 28 of this particular training material, which was changed by myself. I can preview, and I can actually restore it back to a previous version of that training material, which is pretty powerful. So there's version control embedded within the application. I can go along and edit that training material. So one of the questions around we typically get is the ease of use of editing content. So it's as simple as there's a recording feature, which I'm not showing now, but there is also an editing feature, which I can go in here and edit that particular content, save that down, and push that out to the JDE environment in question. So that's the editing capability. I can look at the activation. There's quite powerful features around conditional activation or conditional enablement of particular training guides, if then else, time-based conditions, etc. That's what we're capturing within there. I can look at the analytics associated to a particular training guide. So again, looking at who's running the training guide, what's the feedback on that particular training guide, and all the information associated to the quality of that particular training. So this one's got 5 stars. You can see quite a good training content or training topic. How complete are people going through to the end of the training material, or are they dropping out after step 1 or 3 like I did earlier? Back to the content. That's from a demo. Right, the last feature I'll show you here is the multi-language capability. So we can generate languages or multitude of different languages, which we've done for Dutch and English for this particular training material, but it just shows you the broad range of languages that we support within the guided learning. Final 2 things I'll show is you do have access to a use case library, quite useful when getting started, which we'll talk about shortly. But for example, if you're looking at an organizational change structure change within your organization, then there is some pre-built content to help support that. If you're looking at using this tool to support UAT testing. There are some use cases around what to develop and how to distribute it in your particular environment. And the last feature I'll show you is within the Oracle Guided Learning platform, they actually use Oracle Guided Learning to show you how to navigate, how to familiarize yourself with the environment. So this is the OGL widget within the OGL platform, which gets a little bit recursive if you think about it too much, but it's a very powerful feature for getting to know how to use the Oracle Guided Learning widget. All right, and jump back to the presentation content. Conditional activation, content analytics we spoke about, multi-language covered off. So hopefully from what you've seen there, that ticks a lot of boxes in relation to some of the challenges you have with a training implementation or training environment. And it's something we should acknowledge that training is hard, and without these types of tools to A, enable, and B, manage and monitor, it's very difficult to gauge the success or the uptake of the particular training material that you're using today. So a lot of organizations like what they've seen and they want to know how to get started. And I'm going to cover that off shortly with what we offer by way of services from an installation perspective. We have a lot of pre-built content. So we've spent the last 6 to 9 months building out a broad and wide range of training material, which you can procure from Steltix. We've also acknowledged that a large number of organizations have invested in UPK content. So we've developed a migration capability to take that UPK content into OGL. And we provide and acknowledge that some organizations may want training material updated on a semi-regular basis. As their business processes change, as they incorporate new functionality, they can coordinate that with us through a managed services arrangement. And of course, we do on-demand project-based training material content development and expertise, as you heard Jason comment on the licensing for Oracle Guided Learning. So from an installation perspective, when you choose to install or provision, it is a SaaS-based product, so the actual activation of the solution is very quick. We provide expertise around the provisioning, linking it to JDE, the also important consideration around standardizing your content, the look and feel for your organization. We help with the use case identification. I'm going to share some of those with you shortly. We do the content creation, the migration services, and that managed services capability is something that we can offer as well. So this is an area that hopefully will get some thoughts going in terms of one of the conversations we have with customers is we've got all this training material we need to migrate or create. And a lot of the time we start with identifying the high value areas and we focus on those, and that in turn builds up some confidence and momentum with the application. So what we're doing here is sharing some of those high value areas we've worked on with organizations, and I think master data management. So for example, new product introductions, the ability to show an process of step someone through the creation of an item, which, let's face it, in many organizations is complicated and convoluted in terms of what category codes, what branch branches to use, etc. Same for assets, business unit, chart of account. So using OGL to help with master data management and the business rules around that is a good place to start. General navigation look and feel is another place we often see organizations start with, taking advantage of watch lists, notifications, orchestrator, forms personalizations, etc. Orchestrator, yes, OGL works on Orchestrator. We see lots of organizations look at it for that particular use case. Knowledge Island, so this is my term for the people in your business that hold all of the knowledge in their head and represent a risk to the business if they were to leave. So getting them to document using a simple to use agile tool such as OGL can mitigate some of that risk by getting that into a tool. Onboarding. So we do lots of work for organizations who want to identify the key tasks for onboarding staff. So entering expenses, purchase order approvals, whatever the case may be, general orientation, seasonal workers, contractors is a big thing that we see use cases for OGL. Obviously procurement and self-services processes, so things that everyone does on a semi-regular basis. Centralizing your policy information and the enforcement of those policy information. So the ability to link that within the application and get that visible to all users is a key use case. I think tools upgrades including UAT, is an opportunity to use the tool to communicate some of the new features that are available within the application. And doing a survey, if you don't know what training material to put out there, then you can do a survey within OGL and poll your people in terms of what they think they need, which is a neat little option. And finally, if you're managing tickets internally within your environment, then you know the commonly repeated questions and areas that will help identify training material requirements. So this is really part of the service that we offer in relation to helping you install the application, but also identify those areas of value add. Our pre-built content. So some of you would be aware of our summer school initiative, been running for 14 years, had many thousands of participants go through the summer school, which is classroom, online, instructor-led training material. We've taken the decision to convert that into Oracle Guided Learning. So instead of starting with a blank canvas, you have an accelerator which you can leverage with your implementation. Our UPK migration framework. I won't go through all of this, but we have a process where we can help analyze the quality of UPK content for the organizations that are still using that, look at what can be migrated to OGL, look at what needs to be modernized, uplifted as part of that process, and we have some tooling to support that. So that's a consideration, or was front of mind when we went into this process. And the managed services we touched on earlier in terms of it is a cloud-based product, so there is regular updates of the Oracle Guided Learning platform. So we help organisations with the ongoing management of their training material content, but also educating them around the new features of what's coming with newer versions of OGL. And finally, licensing services. So as you heard Jason talk about earlier, so Steltix globally can help organizations procure Oracle Guided Learning. What we haven't touched on is that a license for Oracle Guided Learning for JDE entitles you to use OGL on up to 3 applications. There are some common pairings that we see out there with JDE with customers. So for example, Salesforce and JDE. It gives you the ability to have training content that spans applications and spans business processes. And that's a key feature for organizations wanting to adopt this as their enterprise-wide training and digital adoption platform. We help organizations optimize their licensing for OGL. We spoke about the different metrics that we can use. We help with the whole procurement process. Okay, I'm now going to pause. I'm just conscious of time, and I imagine there is some questions that have potentially arisen. For those of you who don't know Steltix, this is a brief overview of our organisation, a truly global Oracle JDE-centric partner, extremely passionate about training through our summer school, Oracle Guided Learning, full managed services capability with customers across 36 countries. So that's briefly who we are. We're delighted to add the OGL4JDE solution to our very popular business process accelerator automation solution, some of which you would be aware of and are customer users of today. But I'll pause now for questions, if that's okay, Chris. So there is a Q&A feature within the application. Yeah, okay. So Brian, thanks Brian from Ravensdown. So the question here is which tools releases required for OGL? So Oracle have released tools release 9273 in April. That is the version which is required to be supported with OGL to support out of the box OGL embedded. However, as you've heard, we've been developing this solution and training material content for the last 12 months. And there is a plugin you can install which enables some level of back compatibility with older versions of JDE, which is how we've developed the content. So hopefully that's answered your question, Brian. Any other questions that we might have out there? just hold the line for a second. We've got a few more things to cover off, and that will conclude the webinar. Okay, so I mentioned we've activated this in our demo.steltix.com environment. So that has release 23 9273 tools. There is a QR code there that will take you directly to demo.steltix.com. If you sign on as the user demo, then you'll see the widget which has been enabled, and you'll see a subset of what I've shown today in terms of the process guides. So that's something you can try it yourself. There's a new question, so I'll just pause. Do the guides also work on customized applications? So Cara, so thanks for that question. So I assume you mean custom JDE applications. Yeah, absolutely. You can develop training content on P55, P56, or if you've modified standard JDE objects, that's fine. It also works on non-JDE applications as well. And there's a bit of a caveat there, but you can enable OGL on, I mentioned Salesforce, but a number of other applications is embedded within as well. So hopefully I've answered that question. How do I manage, so Sophie, thanks Sophie, how do I manage content updates when they're released? So probably multifaceted answer there. There is version control within the application itself, and there's a publishing feature for your non-prod JDE environment and your prod JDE environment. So there is that full SDLC on your training material. So that's one aspect of the answer. If you're getting content from Steltix, then we make you aware of the changes, and there's a whole, analysis piece around the delta changes from the training material as well. So hopefully that answers that question. Can you also post messages for a specific user group? That's a really good question, Caro. Jason, I don't know if you can help me out with that one. Otherwise, we might have to get back to you on that one. So that broadcasting feature I spoke about, making that conditional for a user group.
Yeah, I mean, within guided learning, messaging can be pushed out to specific user roles. So if you've got, say, for example, if there's just a finance group and that's one of the defined roles within the product, you can set conditional things on the guides to send messages out just to them. So that is the sort of thing that is possible.
Thank you, Jason. And Stefan, yes, so if you're using a Cooper or another procurement module modeled onto JDE, then from a license perspective, you could run OGL across that application as well within the 3 apps. That is correct. Cara says thanks. Thanks, Cara. Any other questions? Good questions so far. I'd ask you to have your QR code readers ready because there's a couple more QR codes you might be interested in. Maybe the next slide, please. All right, so where to find out more information? So Oracle Learn JDE has got a feature on Oracle Guided Learning. I would suggest you go to the Steltix website. We've got that content plus some specifics that I've covered off today. So that QR code will take you directly to the Oracle Guided Learning for JD Edwards product site within our Steltix.com website. On that page, there is a form that you can contact myself. So I'm the product owner for Steltix. That'll come through to myself and I can clarify any questions. If you prefer to send me an email or connect with me directly on LinkedIn, that QR code will take you directly to my LinkedIn profile. You can connect and I can follow up with any specific demonstrations or questions. And my email address is there as well, daniel.smith@steltix.com. How long does it take to implement this tool from your past experience? Well, probably a 2-part answer. Sophie, the actual provisioning, the installation, the training we provide is very, very quick. So think days, weeks to enable that. Obviously, the training content will depend on what volume and quantity and footprint you're running there. But we see this over a period of weeks to get started, and maybe several months to complete a full-blown training content build deployment, subject to the size of the organisation. I'm happy to take any more questions if they come through. Yeah, I encourage you to connect with me on LinkedIn and please feel free to send me an email at daniel.smith.steltix.com. On behalf of Steltix and on behalf of Oracle, thank you for participation in the webinar. I'm happy to take any additional questions off the back of this, and thank you for the team at Oracle University and specifically Jason, who's been helping us with this initiative over the course of the last year. So, Jason, any final words from yourself?
No, I think the Steltix team have done an amazing job getting this market ready, and even I was pleasantly surprised by some of what you've created there. So, I guess all I can say to all the JD Edwards customers here is that we've got 800 to 900 customers using this across the other Oracle products in the cloud at the moment, and it's growing day by day. So there's, if you did want to find out more and speak to any other customers just about the general experience, we can also assist with that. But I think this is the way of learning in the future. So very exciting. Thanks for involving me, Dan.